So it was really interesting listening to the panel because a lot of what I'm going to touch on and share sort of concrete data are things that I think came up, during the session. And I sort of spend my days thinking about web performance and web user experience. And I'd say probably 60% of our customers are e-commerce companies. And so, what I wanted to talk about today is sort of the balance between using high quality, high definition sort of product images and the impact on performance. And that certainly seemed to come up a lot today in the panel discussion. So, I think intuitively most of us who are sort of building websites sort of know that, if I can get a bigger, higher quality image on the web page, it's going to help conversions, right? If I look at these two watches, there's the little fuzzy one where it's a little hard to make out the detail, or the nice big image where I can see lots of details, I can see the gears on the page there. If I can't hold the product, the ability to see all that data, to see the nice armband there is going to help me make a purchase decision and convert. And it turns out when you look at the actual data in the studies, it backs that up as well. So eBay did an interesting study where they A/B tested the size of product images on their auction pages. Skinner Auctions did this, Dell did this, I'm sure many of you do this internally, and they found that, yep, bigger, better images help conversion to a point. And there's a flip side to this. So if you use bigger images, you'll get better conversions, but it can mean slower page load times. And so there's a balance there that I'm going to talk about. And the problem is that these days, what we're talking about today is tablets and smartphones. This is some data from a third-party Keynote Systems that many of you may use already that does web performance testing. And this is data from December about the average page load times across a bunch of different retail sites. And so what's interesting is, I'll kind of play this out on the desktops. They're under about 3 seconds, which is good. They're getting that experience up there really quickly. It's a very different story when you look at the tablets and smartphones, and it's a little painful. I actually put the timings in here, but it takes almost 15 seconds on tablets and smartphones to load up these experiences. And so this is data from Keynote Systems, but last week I actually did a webinar on responsive websites and performance. And I kind of took a look at a nice responsive website that one of the major coffee companies has put together, and I saw the exact same thing. It was about 3 seconds on the desktop site, but when you go and measure it on tablets and smartphones, it was actually even worse than this. And I won't share the numbers, they're a little bit scary. But increasingly, of course, all of us in this room, these are the users we care about, and they're getting a pretty poor experience today. And someone mentioned, some of the data that's out there around performance impact on conversions, and I certainly heard that a lot in the panel today. This is a chart and data from Walmart, and they've been good about releasing kind of information that they collect internally, and it essentially shows what everybody talked about, that as the page load time increases, it absolutely destroys your conversions. And you can find data from Amazon. They did this as well. They kind of actually artificially injected delay to see the impact on conversions. Glasses Direct did this as well. So there's a bunch of public data, but essentially it shows the same thing. After about 4 seconds, conversions basically go in the toilet. And you can see, there's a lot of folks here that are certainly past 4 seconds. And if you think about that previous slide where I showed the desktops and the smartphones and tablets, the time to load those pages at 15 seconds, there's not a lot of people that are going to hang out and wait around for that. So certainly having a big impact on conversions. And so, what's the problem? Why is the desktop site loading up quickly and the smartphones and tablets slowly? So some of it is resources, but I think these days smartphones and tablets, they've got a lot of horsepower. But if you look at the way people are delivering their websites, it's really still based around technology that was built 10 years ago. If you think about sort of the barriers to fast web performance 10 years ago, it was sort of getting your website from maybe your servers on the East Coast to a user on the West Coast and making that a fast experience. And the problem wasn't necessarily sort of on the last mile, sort of the connection to the end user. It was really sort of in the core of the internet. And so a bunch of vendors kind of popped up with solutions to try and address problems with core internet delivery. So application delivery controllers, content delivery networks, certainly people when they were designing their websites thought about this. And what's happened over the last 4 or 5 years is the bottleneck has shifted. I think those vendors did a fine job sort of helping out with delivery problems sort of in the wired world. what's happened is everybody's gone wireless. And so the bottleneck to web delivery has actually shifted to the last mile, to the wireless last mile. So it's no longer from your web servers out to the edge of the ISP networks like Comcast and AT&T. It's really on the backhaul networks and out over the cell towers to the end users. And so the bottleneck, the delay, and sort of the networking constraints there are many times that of, what used to be from the East Coast to the West Coast, from your web servers to a wired user. So everybody's moved to wireless, which is making this hard. And the applications, of course, have gotten a lot bigger. And so what's happening is this is forcing these quality versus performance trade-offs, because ideally, if there was no impact to performance, you just have these massive, really high-definition images, and for the tablets with Retina displays, you'd be sending great big images to those as well. The problem is it kills performance with traditional approaches, and so you have to kind of strike that balance. And certainly I heard a lot from these folks about making sure your website loads up fast, but you don't want to just have a plain vanilla website that looks like something from 10 years ago. You want to have an immersive experience. And so what if you could have both? This is a demonstration that's actually showing our technology loading up a pretty image-intensive website with a bunch of shoes. They're not Crocs, but they're high tops. And these are actually Retina display images. And so between a traditional approach and using a new way to deliver websites. And so what you can see here is we can actually load up the whole page in about 4 seconds, versus a traditional approach, the user scrolling around and seeing the images, slowly come in. And this is on, pretty decent networking conditions. Certainly, the worse the networking conditions, the worse the legacy approach, and actually the better for ours. So, the insight that we looked at when we developed this technology is a transition that happened 10 years ago with video delivery. So if we all sort of go back to the dark ages of video delivery on the internet, you used to click a file, you download the whole thing to your computer, and 5 minutes later you could watch the cat videos, right? We were talking about cat videos early. So you could watch that clip, and if you got 3 seconds in and decided you didn't like it, you wasted a bunch of time. And then, a bunch of vendors like Real Networks figured out video streaming. And what they did is they figured out the most important part of the video, the first part, and they sent that down and let you start watching the video, and they'd bring the rest down in the background. And so there was a big, switch there. Now we can watch high-definition videos, even on our smartphones, because it's using the streaming technology. About 6 years ago, a bunch of companies figured out how to do this with Windows applications. The same idea. If you're downloading Microsoft Office, instead of having to download all of that software up front and install it, what if you could just bring down Word, start using that, and the rest comes down in the background? In fact, that's how Microsoft does it today. If you go download an Office trial, you can start playing with Word within a couple minutes. Meanwhile, the rest of it comes down in the background. It used to take a couple hours to do that process. And so what we've developed is essentially streaming for Windows, or for websites and web applications. And if you look at sort of traditional approaches to web delivery, everybody's really in the download business. You're downloading a lot of information to the browser up front, and then the browser sort of munges through everything and shows it to the user. And so, it takes a long time before you can actually paint something up on the screen. And so we've figured out a way to actually stream websites and web applications to standard web browsers. And so at a high level, the way this works is we take bigger components like images. So our service understands the JPEGs and the PNGs that you want to use on your website and the HTML and all the code that you use. And we take bigger elements and we break them down into smaller fragments. So we take these big components, break them down into smaller pieces, and then we actually analyze your website and application and how they load in different users' browsers. And we figure out a minimal subset of the data that you need to have the experience come up and display quickly. And so what we do, instead of having to download everything before we can display the experience, we just bring the most important subset down. We display the web page. Meanwhile, we bring down the remainder in the background. So that's why we call it streaming. It's very much like video streaming, where you bring the most important part down, bring the rest down in the background. And the nice thing is you don't have to do this balance anymore. You can have high performance. You can have the website show up very quickly so someone can take an action, plus high quality images. You can use much higher quality product images without impacting that initial load time. And a lot of what we're doing, the way we're able to pull this off is over the last 10 years, web browsers have become a lot more sophisticated as well. They've really become full-on application execution environments. So we're using a lot of HTML5 technologies to pull this off. And the system's designed as a full CDN replacement, so you'd replace us with the use of a content delivery network. Same integration process. You don't have to change code or servers on the back end, and it's transparent to the users as well. And it works for all devices. So it works for smartphones and tablets, and that we specifically sort of designed it around sort of the worst case scenario of smartphones and tablets, but it works great for laptops and desktops as well. And so now what I wanted to do, sort of finishing up, is a couple case studies of our customers that have used this technology. And so I picked 3. I'll talk about Dollar Shave Club, and then One Kings Lane and Bonfair. And all of these customers wanted to use, high quality, high definition images, but they were also, very cognizant of the fact that, poor performance would impact their conversions. And so Dollar Shave Club was an interesting one, and they were using a content delivery network to deliver their website, and they did an A/B test. For 3 weeks, they ran half their traffic through our system and half their traffic through their traditional CDN. And they saw a pretty big conversion boost. So overall, across all the devices accessing their website, they saw about a 17% boost to conversions. But what was interesting when they dug into the data was what they saw for tablets and smartphones. So these are the ones that were hardest for them to convert. And as you saw from the earlier slide with the keynote data, those are where the page load times are the heaviest. And it was certainly true for these guys as well. And so they saw an even more dramatic increase in conversions for the users that were on tablets, and then even more dramatic on the smartphones, where you're more likely to be on even more constrained 3G and 4G connections. And what was interesting about Dollar Shave Club is they're pretty sophisticated about kind of A/B testing. They'd already done a bunch of work around calls to action. They'd taken that button, they'd used different words, they'd moved around on the page, they'd played around with images on the site, and so they got little conversion wins for all those things. But this is a quote from their VP of engineering. The biggest conversion win that they got was increasing the performance of their website and making it load faster. And they got that for free, essentially, with us. What I wanted to do now is, since we couldn't have all our customers come out to the show, is we videotaped 2 of them, One Kings Lane and Bonfair, talking about sort of their approach to design and talking about kind of big images on their site, and also talking about performance as well. So I'll give you a little flavor of that.
One Kings Lane is an online lifestyle brand for the home, and what we focus on is bringing a fresh assortment of online products for the home on our site every single day. So our brand is anchored on this very strong creative muscle. As a result, we invest in high quality imagery to truly reflect our great products to our customers in a way that makes them happy and evokes some emotion. As a result, these heavy images aren't necessarily conducive to the fast experience that we desire. But products like Instart Logic end up giving us a huge boost in terms of delivering content quickly to our customers. And it got anywhere from a 20 to 50% improvement in page load time after we implemented Instart Logic. Traffic is increasing exponentially to our mobile products. I would say we're more than 35% of our traffic on mobile. Our mobile strategy is sort of anchored on the fact that customers in general increasingly prefer iPhones or Android phones and tablets. And in that context, we still want to provide them the same rich experience, the same speed, with the same great imagery. And so it's a big deal for us. We continue to shift traffic to that channel, and we need to continue to provide that same great experience that we did on the website on our mobile platforms.
Bonfair got started beginning of last year, really just as an idea and a concept of how the consumers, the fashion lovers, can essentially buy their new collections directly from the designer and really get connected with the person who creates the fashion in the first place. We're a highly visual site. The zoom image that we provide allows you to zoom into that probably 3 to 4x the original image. So you can think that the full image that we're using is probably anywhere from 1.5 megabytes or more, whereas traditional e-commerce images are going to be more around 300 or 400K. So we literally have 4, 5, or 6 of these zoomable high-res images on every page. Now, if we did that with our own servers and tried to serve up all of those images, the user would be waiting 5, 10, 15 seconds for the page to load. And that's why working with someone like Instart Logic is so critical for us, because we have to have it happen very, very quickly. And that's our goal ultimately, is to have the page transitions be like flipping a magazine page. What really appealed to me about their solution was really about putting in special handling that would stream these large assets so that the user would get a very immediate response, and then the rest of the asset would be coming in the background while they're already enjoying the page. It's been really encouraging for us at the comments we've got back. The customers just kind of rave about the experience we deliver with the website and the way they can interact with it. They just love the way we treat and manage their product and deliver such a beautiful consumer experience.
Probably about 60% of the customers using our technology today are e-commerce sites, so it's a big focus for us. Certainly the way the technology works, I think e-commerce sites sort of see the value of faster performance, and that came up a lot during the panel. We're here at the show, so we're in booth 214. If you're interested to see the technology working with your existing site, we can show you that. I think one of the interesting things is that, yeah, we can make your current websites faster, and certainly that's a big deal and can help a lot, but I think one of the things we've seen from a lot of our kind of bleeding edge customers is they'll actually go back and be able to create new sort of experiences, much more visual, much more immersive experiences without impacting performance. And so there's a bigger win there over the long haul. And then we'll have a white paper here that we'll pass out, and certainly we're in the booth to chat, and I'll hang around during the coffee break as well. So thanks a lot.